Well, all right, buddy. We are rolling. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good, man.
Justin, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Penfield and a little bit about your story?
All right. My name's Justin Bryson, and I am maintenance with Mr. Bobby Byers here. Basically, that's the first part of the job, but the main thing I do is witness to people and let them know my story. I came through the doors a little over a year ago, and this place changed my life. And so I just want to give back in any way that I can. And I stayed on as a servant leader for a few months, around 6 months. And then God saw so fit for me to stick around and made it possible for me to become a staff member here. And it has been a blessing, one blessing after another, since I've came.
Awesome. So one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on is you made a video about a week ago or so?
About 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago? For those of you that are watching, I'm going to have the link to that video that Facebook created in the description on this video. But you just were up on a roof, and initially you kind of wanted to just poke fun at your friends or your...
Yeah, it's so my cousin, they own a roofing company, and when I got on the roof, I started looking around and noticed I could see fibers, and maybe I needed an inspection. And so at first it was, hey, let me give them a shout out, but show them that, hey, I can make a video on a roof too, kind of parody, but get them to shout out as well. And it didn't go at all like that. It was one of those moments where, like when I'm here and I make a lesson or do some research on scripture and I have something that I'm going to say to the guys, it normally doesn't go the way I want it to either. And in that moment on that roof, that was 100% spirit-led. I didn't say anything that I had thought I was going to say, and it was basically just vomit that came out. And I didn't think too much about it. I just posted it, and then the reaction and the response that I got was overwhelming.
Yeah, what did you say you were up to now? About 500 or so views?
Yeah, it was like, last time I looked, it was like 480 something.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So what all did you talk about in the video?
So basically I was cleaning my gutters, and somehow it turned into a cleaning the gutters inside of ourselves, not letting things get backed up. If anybody knows about gutters, it's just leaves on top of leaves and on top of leaves, and then things began to take root. I had trees growing in my gutters, and it was kind of a reference to the longer we wait, the harder it is to clean them out. We let those bad things take root inside of ourselves, and it can end up destroying us.
Yeah. That's such a great analogy to use. I can certainly relate to it. What does it look like for you in the past cleaning out those gutters, cleaning out the gutters of your life?
I didn't. I didn't at all. That was my main problem, and I didn't realize that till I got here to a place like this, to be able to say the reason that I have all these issues is because I'm not dealing with the little issues. I'm bottling everything up inside of me. I've always been one to not want to be in conflict, avoid conflict at all costs, even if it means so much as destroying who I am as a person, not standing up for the things that I know are right or that I believe in, and just basically letting people run over me. And I've dealt with a lot of death in the family and relationships, things that everybody goes through, but I just didn't deal with them. I just bottled them up and never told anybody how I really feel. And as men, we walk around all day. Hey, man, how are you doing? I'm good.
Yeah.
Even if something's really eating at us, it's just we're good. No, you don't think that really people want to really hear how you're really doing. But I now, if something's on my mind, I speak it.
Yeah.
And it makes things. Hey, I might upset somebody, but it's okay, because at the end of the day, if I don't say something, I'm going to upset myself and I'm going to be unbalanced. And that's not going to be good for anyone.
That's so important to say, too, because you're right. So many of us, for most of our lives, I'm good. I'm okay. I hate that word, especially around here. I don't let guys say it. No, let's get more specific. How do you really feel? Because I was good when I was drinking, right? Good's too broad. Good's too vague. And so many of us have been taught for so long is just to be that, I'm good. Yeah, it doesn't matter what's happening really in my life. People don't want to know that stuff. They just want you to say, I'm good, because they're being polite and asking. They expect you to be polite and not bog them down with your problems, right? That's what we think. But in reality, if we can actually just start to really think about it and answer that question honestly and talk about how we feel and what's going on and take that inventory, then our gutters won't get piled up. I mean, I was the exact same way as you were. Like, the way I equate it to is we're just putting stuff aside and we're building up weight, right? And we build up and we build up and we're starting to carry all this weight and we're carrying more weight and more weight and more weight. And eventually we seek and find something that kind of makes us feel like the load has been lightened, right? But at the end of the day, what we're doing when we have all these problems and these issues and things in our lives that we're not dealing with because we're afraid to lean into discomfort, really all we're doing is hitting the pause button on our problems.
Absolutely.
We're hitting the pause button. And so while we might think that that weight is being lifted when we resort to that drink or that drug, really we're just hitting the pause button on that one thing, and then other stuff's coming on. And then it gets worse and worse and worse.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like putting your crap in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
Eventually you're going to have to dump that wheelbarrow. And when I was out there in my addiction, there would be one person that might get it that day. It would have maybe not even have anything to do with any of the situations that have been piling up, but I would take it out on somebody or something. My house is a clear indication of that. Just that rage, just taking it all out instead of little by little handling as it comes. It's so much easier. I say easier. Sometimes it's not so easy.
Yeah.
But it's simple to think of it as, let me handle this now. As it comes, issue comes up, go talk to that person. Or perspective is another thing that I've learned since I've been here. The way that I see things might not be the way that it actually is.
Yeah.
I might need to. My thing was talking to people. It's so hard to talk to people. And so now I seek others' visions of whatever the instance is. It could be something completely stupid. I'm making something huge out of something so insignificant. And it takes the accountability of people here, like you and Bobby and everybody here, to be able to say, look, you're being an idiot. Those are the kind of friends that I need. I don't need those yeah, man, you're doing good when I'm really screwing my life completely up. That's not what I need. I need people to say, hey, look, I love you, but you're being stupid.
Yeah.
That's, and being able to be open about that and be that guy too, to say, hey, man, I don't think that's right. I think you're acting like an idiot.
Yeah.
That's huge for me. Like I said, being able to talk to people just one-on-one was hard for me. And now, through the power that God has given me and me knowing who I am in God, and I stand in front of a group of 20, 30, 40 guys and speak my heart now.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Like, that is not me. That's not who I was. I never thought that I would be able to sit in front of a group of people and actually speak my heart. And so that comes from being open. I have to be completely transparent for recovery to work for me. I have to be completely transparent. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that can't be so open about coming to a recovery place or having addictions. And I'm here to be a voice for that, to say, if you have to suffer in silence, man, I'm here to do it out loud for you, to show you that it's possible and this is how I've done it.
That's all so good. And you make another good point, dealing with things as they come, as opposed to putting it off to the side. And it isn't always easy, but I think the key thing to remember is that it's necessary.
Absolutely.
because it doesn't go anywhere if we don't do anything with it. We might think it does, and we might put things off in the hopes that it will just go away and never come back. But the important stuff and the stuff that we really got to deal with is going to find a way to come back.
Yeah.
So as opposed to getting hit with all these things or trying to carry this load of all of these things that we put off, if we can just bear down and get through it one thing at a time, not worry about all the things in the future, but what do I have to do right now? What is necessary? What is this one thing I need to address, process, work through, talk to somebody, whatever that may be, whatever it looks like, 'cause everybody's different. Get through the things that we need to get through and don't put stuff off.
Right.
Because we're going to seek that valve that just released the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for a lot of us, it did for a second.
For a very little while.
It did right up until it didn't.
Yeah.
And then we no longer had the luxury of choice. It was a compulsion. And then on top of all of that, we still had all this stuff. Yeah. And then the drugs and alcohol we were using were making that pile even higher than it was.
It got to the point where it didn't numb the pain. It didn't put pause on it. I'm obliterated, and I'm still sitting here thinking about these problems that used to go away when I would do this.
Yeah.
So now what am I going to do?
And it just exacerbates the entire thing.
Mm-hmm. Now the other part of that is knowing which problem. There's a lot of conflicts in life, and some of those conflicts don't even deserve your attention. You know, I've learned to. There are things that would used to happen, and I would be, oh my God, all my focus would go to that one insignificant thing, and now I look at it and I'm like, you know what? That doesn't even deserve any of my thought or energy. You know, just because one person is having a bad day,
yeah,
and they want to try to take it out. I understand. I was on that side trying to take it out on someone else.
Yeah.
And now I just realize, hey, I'm not gonna react. I'm not gonna respond. I'm gonna let everything cool down, and then maybe talk about it with them later. But most of the time, it doesn't even deserve my attention. It doesn't really involve me, and just trying to pick my battles. You know.
When you do pick your battles, if it is, let's just say somebody close to you's having a bad day, right? And they maybe they do kind of lash out at you a little bit. How do you go about addressing it with that person?
First of all, I let them get it all out. Whatever's going on, just let them get it out. And then a lot of times ask if we can pray to bring God into that situation, you know. It's harder when people aren't believers. They kind of look at you like you're nuts. But around here, the people that I'm around all the time,
yeah,
it's a given that, okay, well, maybe that'll help. So bring God into it. And if it's something that I did to that person or something that I've done that has affected the situation, I immediately own that myself. Okay, I own my part. If there's conflict, I'm the first one to own my part now, which before I would always place the blame on someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not perfect, and I never will be. So own my part of it. If it's something that I had nothing to do with, just try to help them find a level ground to try to see their part in the situation. Just change the perspective. Let's look at it from all angles. Okay, we see your side. Let's see it from their side or my side, and then possibly bring someone else into it. Someone that has no input, you know, nothing to do with the situation. This is what's going on. How do you see it? It's all about perspective. But the key now is owning my part. For the longest time, even if I had everything to do with it, I caused every bit of the conflict. No, that wasn't me. But now I look back at past instances and I admit, you know, that's a part of it, you know, reaching out and making amends, owning my part in it. And I've done that. And that's hard, but it's necessary.
Yeah. Just the path to getting better isn't always an easy one, right? And like I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's okay to lean into discomfort. The resilience that you can gain from doing it, the awareness, the strength, right? The perseverance, just from understanding that sometimes things are going to be tough. And that's just the unfortunate part of the deal. But when we get through those tough times, whether they be small or big, whether it be a bad day or a tragic life event, when we get through those things and we face them head on, we have the opportunity to come out on the other side better than we were before they happened.
Mm-hmm.
So often, though, we just chosen complete avoidance.
Yeah.
Because it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to think about it. And that's such a big part of recovery, or at least in mine, has been just, you know what, let's just tackle this now. Let's just go ahead and do it. It's probably going to suck for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but less than if I were to put this off.
Right.
What kind of space in my mind is this going to occupy if I don't deal with it now? And for how long will it occupy? What are the people around me going to experience as a result of me not dealing with this? Because they will. We don't think they will, right? Especially in addiction, we kind of think it's all me. I'm only hurting myself. I'm only doing this. I'm only affecting me. But we're not. We're affecting our entire sphere around us. So even with things, as a person in recovery, when things come about, what are other people going to experience because I'm going through this, right? And can I make them aware of what's going on? Can I actually talk instead of just saying, yeah, I'm good?
Yeah.
Right? Because if everybody's under the impression that you're always good when you're not, how do people really know what's going on with you, right? If we can actually just talk and say, this is what I got going on, then we can have help. And like you mentioned, two heads are always better than one. Some perspective, an objective, taking a look at an objective point of view, taking a look at the situation and saying, you know what, maybe Justin, I don't think you're looking at this the right way. Or, yeah, I see what you're doing, but maybe if you looked at it this way.
Yep,
You know,
that's it.
We always, the guidance and advice that we can get, right? We talk about cleaning out our gutters. It doesn't mean we always have to do it alone, right? Sometimes that other person, that close friend or family member, whoever that may be for us, can help us and take a look at things. And maybe they can say that thing, or they can relate to us or offer us that piece of advice that helps us.
It's always good to have somebody hold the ladder when you're cleaning out the gutters.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that was at the end of the video. It's more about, it starts out as I'm a do-it-myselfer, and then at the end it's kind of like I don't have the capability to do everything by myself, and you have to ask for help.
Yeah.
And in everybody's life, you're going to have to ask for help. Don't be ashamed of that. God calls us to be in fellowship with one another. We have to, you know, there are things that I can do that you can't do. There are things you can do that I have no idea about. And that's what makes, you know, the church is not a building. The church is us working together and filling those gaps that I'm not able to do and you're not able to do. There's somebody out there that can, and together we can accomplish it all through Him. So.
You mentioned, too, when you go, I want to kind of pivot a little bit, when you go and speak to the guys, right, and you give your messages, what is the main message that you like to put across?
Love like Jesus. That is my main thing, and that was what I came in here hating everybody, hating everything. But the core issue with that was I was hating myself. I couldn't love myself. So it started with me loving myself. I fell back in love with God. And this isn't just I worship God. I have a relationship with Him now, and I've learned that here. You know, I've been in and out of church a little bit my whole life, and I didn't get it. But once I got here and I was completely busted and broken, you know, I always thought I had to be a certain way or dress a certain way, talk a certain way to be able to follow God or to be able to be loved by God. And I was totally wrong. He wants us just like we are. And if we create that relationship with Him, that love relationship, then we'll want to start changing those things. We start thinking like God, you know, start living like Jesus. And it sounds so cliche, but that's what it is for me. Is I've had a lot of instances in my life that, you know, since I've been in recovery, that the old me would have handled a lot differently and not forgiven certain individuals for things that they had done. But the first thing I do is forgive them and because, Jesus died for that sin as well. He knew that was going to happen, and he still loves that person the same. And that's a hard thing to do. Like as a man, I'm going to roll out on some people, but I don't think like that anymore. That initial feeling inside, it's like, no, man, he's already forgiven. They're already forgiven. I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to love them. I'm going to pray for that person. And that's what I try to teach the guys is, number one, love yourself. Number two, come as you are. You don't have to be a certain way. But through loving him and learning to love like him, you start to change the way that you perceive the world. When I got in recovery and started living straight and got out, the world didn't change. The world's still the same, maybe even worse. My perspective of the world changed.
Yeah, that's important.
And that's huge. And I pray that everybody that comes through these doors gets to experience that feeling and to know that there are people that actually care. I love everybody that comes through these doors. Everybody that I come in contact with, I love them with my whole heart. I may not agree with a lot of people in life that I meet, but the love is there because we're all part of one thing.
That's so important to understand that we can love somebody and not agree with them.
Absolutely.
I wish the world had a pretty good dose of that right now.
Yeah, we need it.
Because you're right. The world keeps turning, no matter what. The time we've spent here, the time we're doing whatever we're doing, the world keeps turning, right? It's a big world. There are a lot of people in it, right? There are elections. There are political parties. There are people that are arguing. There's a pandemic that's going on. The world is going to continue doing its thing. What is your perspective of it?
Right.
And that can be tough sometimes, especially when it comes to loving people, right? I've known plenty of people that are pretty hard to love. I still know people that are hard to love. And that's something I struggle with. And it's something that I'm always going to struggle with. I think that's important for people to understand, too. A lot of the stuff that comes with recovery does not mean that you're going to be perfect at it every single time. There are days when I find myself not loving somebody. There are days when I just have off days, right? And in all sorts of fashions. What's important to understand is that we need to acknowledge what's going on and work to correct it. Right? We can't have an off day and then just think, well, what am I even doing?
Right.
And we can't think, I'm a failure, and then just let ourselves slide off. Because again, the same deal. If we continue to do that for long enough, we're going to find something that makes us not feel like a failure or something that makes us feel better. It's okay to acknowledge that we're not perfect, and that with recovery and all the things that you learn and this new perspective and all of these things, there are going to be times when our perspective is off. There are going to be times when we forget about this great new perspective that we've developed. The key is recognizing it and then switching back. And that's one of the most important things, because it's going to happen. It might not be tomorrow, might not be the week after. It could be a year from now or 5 years from now. But we're going to have off days or off times, off weeks. What do we do as a result is what's going to be very important for people in the future.
And the further you get into this and the closer you get with God, the faster you're going to realize those situations. You're not going to stray as far, and you're going to be able to recognize it and bring it back and say, okay, now what do I do from here?
Yeah. And the more we work on that relationship with God, and I'm just like you, I view it as a relationship, right? It is a loving relationship. And the more we work on that relationship, the more we work on strengthening it and getting closer to God every single day, the more active we are in it, the easier it will be to resort back to that and to remember that when we do have our off days or things in our life aren't going like we need them to be going, or, we kind of start to stray off that road a little bit. It'll be easier for us to turn right back on it and continue going down the path we're supposed to go on. Because we all have a path. It's up to us on how we travel down it and what turns we do or don't take. And the more we surround ourselves with loving like Jesus and working and trying to do that every single day, the easier it'll be for us to correct our path if things start to go on. We'll remember things. We'll have that to lean back against if for some reason we just kind of have a brain malfunction and, just things kind of go off a little bit. We'll have that. We're used to it, and we have that relationship that we can always have with us and fall back on.
Well, I'll speak for me. I know that going down the road that I went, when I look back, when I have a bad situation now, when something, God forbid, catastrophic happens, lose someone, something like that. When that happens now, I've been blessed to have been on the dark side of this thing. And now I look back and I see that he was there the whole time. So I'm at an advantage so that when things come up, I can be like, yeah, this sucks really bad. But something good is going to come from it because all the other stuff, he's used it for something in my life and something for someone else. A lot of the things that I went through and made it through, and I'm able to stand here today and say it's capable. There's a lot of people that come through these doors that can relate to that.
Yeah.
And that's what we all share. A lot of people that come through these doors, when I was out in the world, I wouldn't have even thought twice about talking to or having any type of conversation with them. But now we all have something in common.
Yeah.
It might not be the same substance, but the same problem. We had a heart problem.
Yeah.
I came in here thinking I had a problem with my head, wanting to go to the psychiatrist and all that. And I got here and I realized that I had a heart problem, not a mind problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being on that dark side and being where I'm at now and being so blessed, I know that when bad things come up that I'm still in his hands. He's still right there. He's not going to leave me. He's not going to forsake me. He's going to use everything for the good of his kingdom. And he's using me for that now. All the stuff that I did, and he still loved me enough to use me. That's a blessing all in itself.
Yeah. And you make a good point to, seeing a darker side of things. And I think we as people in recovery or people, in early recovery or in active addiction, we've seen things that a lot of people haven't seen. Mm-hmm. We've experienced things a lot of people haven't experienced. So we have a very unique perspective of where things can go and where things have been. And I think if we use that perspective correctly moving forward, we have such a unique ability to just not let things get to us like they might the normal person, especially in a place where like this and beyond this, where you can incorporate what you've been through and a spiritual foundation and working on your relationship with God. You've seen so many different sides of the coin. And there are things that, I've seen a lot worse. Yeah. We go through things and situations happens in life when the normal person, they might be pretty frazzled by it. But somebody like you or I or other people in recovery and in addiction,
I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I've seen somebody come out on the other side of that.
I've been there, done that. Mm-hmm. Or been through worse, gotten through worse. Yeah. So you know what? This little thing, it sucks, but this is nothing, right? We have a unique resilience that if we use properly, the sky's the limit. At the end of the day, it's always going to be on us.
Yeah. And it's moments, little moments. Things happen, but things happen in a moment. Don't let it control the rest of your time. And that was, I didn't let things go, man. I held grudges. I held on to grief, man. I didn't grieve most of my addiction was because I did not fully grieve for the loss of someone. And once you realize that you're stuck in that moment, that one moment that happened, it may, it's influential. You're going to be without that person for a long time. But I was stuck in a moment, and I let it affect every moment since then. Since I've let it go, every moment of my life is amazing. I have tough times. I'm not going to lie, I still have bad thoughts, but I go back to God and say, look, let's sort this out. But I appreciate every moment that I have now, and I never take it for granted.
Mm-hmm. That's important. So, all right, Justin, before we wrap things up, one thing I like to ask, for the person that's new to recovery, or the person that is thinking about beginning and trying to get into recovery, maybe that person that's still in active addiction, what would be the best advice that you would give them?
It's time. If you're thinking about it, it's time. There's no better time than now to start living your life. Because right now, you may not be living to your fullest potential. And you're wasting time. God loves you, and God has a purpose for you. It's time to find out what that is. Start living your new life.
I couldn't agree with you more. All right, buddy. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Hunter.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, buddy.